the day after being diagnosed with supermale syndrome. I transmigrated into the useless male lead of an angst novel. As soon as I opened my eyes, my cheating wife cursed at me again, calling me a worthless coward. However, instead of panicking, I actually grinned in excitement. The next second, under her shocked gaze, I clutched her throat tightly, slapping her face more than a dozen times while cursing her. I angrily scolded, "Your mouth has hemorrhoids. Can't even speak human words." The gang member with colorful dyed hair mocked me for looking unattractive. I leisurely blew on the freshly brewed goji berries in my thermos cup and casually splashed the scalding hot water onto his face. The next moment, the pained screams and curses of the male supporting role and the female lead echoed behind me, and I felt utterly intoxicated by the sound. Who said this is an angst novel? Clearly, it's incredibly satisfying. Chapter 01. Where's the hangover soup I asked you to make? The moment I opened my eyes, I heard a woman's shrill yelling. The next second, smack, before my brain could even start functioning, I was fiercely slapped across the face. Willow, her eyes still hazy from alcohol, cursed at me, "Useless coward. Marrying you must be the worst misfortune of my life. What's the point of having you around?" My head was knocked to the side, blood seeping from the corner of my mouth. I pressed my tongue against the painful cut inside my mouth, then looked up at the impatient woman before me, and suddenly curved my lips into a smile, seeing me grin even after being slapped. Willow raised her hand to hit me again, but in that instant, I grabbed her throat with one hand, tightening my grip as the suffocating sensation closed in. I stuck out my tongue to lick the bloody sweetness at the corner of my lips, the fire inside me burning hotter and hotter. I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face, cursing with each blow. "Your mouth has hemorrhoids. Can't even speak human words. Damn it. Taking medicine is already annoying enough, and now there's this lunatic on top of it." The more I slapped, the more exhilarated I became, my strikes growing heavier, until I heard her broken, trembling words. "David, you've gone insane." At the sound of that name, I instantly froze. Willow collapsed in my grip like a helpless chick, her mouth full of blood from my slaps, before fainting. Oh hell no. Did I just transmigrate into the angst novel I read a few days ago? David, the worthless coward male lead of that angst novel, abused physically and emotionally by his cheating wife, forced to the point of having his kidney cut out, and in the end, he still forgave her, reconciling with her, the ultimate loser among losers. Shocked, I cursed out loud. Then, remembering something, I lowered my gaze to the collapsed Willow at my feet. So this is the damned cheating female lead. I instantly regretted not slapping her a few more times, recalling those brainless humiliation plots. The irritation inside me surged uncontrollably again. Instinctively, I wanted to find medication to control my condition, but then remembered, in this novel, where the hell would there be medicine? Just as I was considering whether to slap the cheating woman a few more times to relieve my agitation, a timid male voice suddenly rang in my mind. He said, "How could you hit Willow? She's my wife." I snapped back. "What the hell are you talking about? Not only will I hit her, I'll beat her to death." That voice seemed completely stunned by my self-righteous tone, and stayed silent for a long moment. Through our exchange, I understood, the voice in my head was the angst novel's male lead, David. Now the two of us shared one body, two souls, but because I couldn't stand his cowardly, submissive ways, I forcefully seized control of the body. He muttered weakly, "She was just venting a little, no matter what. Domestic violence isn't right." Arguing with him, I roared back, "If a woman hitting a man is called venting, then why is it called domestic violence when a man hits a woman?" After thoroughly scolding the male lead, I cast a glance at the damned cheating woman lying there, then turned to head back to sleep. The male lead started whining cowardly again. "Brother, can you at least put some medicine on my wife's wounds? She must be in a lot of pain." I burst out laughing in anger. A wife who takes out her anger by beating and insulting her husband, and I'm supposed to treat her kindly. Not killing her already counts as merciful. I didn't want to, but the male lead actually called me brother. What else could I say then? And with him chanting endlessly in my head until my skull hurt, the manic depression I had barely suppressed started to rise again. So, unwillingly, I sloppily applied some medicine to her, tossed her onto the sofa, and even thoughtfully covered her stomach with the towel I usually wiped my feet with. Wouldn't want her to catch a cold. After all, there's business to deal with when she wakes up. I recalled the plot and pulled out a card from her bag. Tomorrow, the male lead would endure humiliation, bear the scolding from the female lead's relatives, and swallow his pride even after being humiliated. But since I've transmigrated here, I'll make sure to turn this angst novel into a story of pure satisfaction. Chapter 02. Early in the morning, after taking a shower, I immediately planned to change my look and start a new life. But when I opened the wardrobe, not a single proper suit was inside. Willow rolled her eyes and said, "What are you looking for? You're sloppy all day long." never caring about your image, looking just like a greasy middle-aged man. And now you suddenly want to fix yourself up. Where was that attitude before? Fine. I'll ask my male best friend Makoto to give you some advice. She spoke casually, as if she had completely forgotten everything that happened yesterday. Most likely she drank too much and blacked out. I really did intend to get myself some new clothes, and when I heard that Makoto would be coming to advise me, I felt a little excited. After all, he's the female lead's male best friend and also that vicious male supporting role in the story. Willow seemed surprised when I readily agreed, but she didn't dwell on it. She turned and walked away. Still, she touched her cheek. Why did it feel swollen? Like it had been slapped over and over again. Before long, Makoto arrived. He was dressed like some street thug. The moment he came in, he tried to act friendly. With a sly grin, he said, "David, Willow told me you wanted to buy some clothes and asked me to give advice. Honestly, I thought you didn't want to see me. After all, David seems to misunderstand me and has always disliked me. But in truth, Willow and I are just pure friends." Makoto put on a helpless expression at the right time, but his eyes were filled with smugness he couldn't hide. I clicked my tongue twice. Damn, what a pretentious act. I didn't want to tolerate him, so I immediately cursed out loud. Your face itself is irritating. How could I possibly find it pleasing? And, male best friend, since you like being a woman's confidant so much, why don't you just castrate yourself? Makoto's face flushed bright red, and the look in his eyes screamed that he wanted to stab me. At that point, he dropped the act, cursing angrily. You idiot, why don't you just go die? My temper flared instantly. I slapped him across the face, sending him crashing to the ground. Then, under his shocked gaze, I grabbed a handful of his multicolored dyed hair and yanked him close, humiliatingly patting his cheek as I whispered in his ear, "Don't bark like a weak chicken." Makoto struggled, shouting threats about telling my wife, but before my absolute strength, it was nothing but a paper tiger. Watching him tremble with rage in my grip instantly lifted my mood. I let go calmly, rolled my neck, and went on to the mall to splurge in style. Makoto followed me bitterly, glaring as I swiped the card and bought things casually. The reason he was so furious was simple. This card was the very one he had given to Willow in order to please her, yet he had no idea how it ended up in my hands. To prepare for the upcoming banquet at the old mansion, I took extra care. I picked a suit that was low-key yet elegant, but also allowed my hands freedom. A luxury car slowly stopped at the entrance of the old mansion. I got out, walking in with steady steps and my head held high. As expected, I received a flood of astonished gazes, including that cheating woman's. With a satisfied look, she walked toward me and scoffed coldly. "At least today you're dressed somewhat decently." I sneered inwardly. "Does someone like me need your evaluation?" Behind me stood Makoto, completely overshadowed by my brilliance. Seeing Willow approach, he recalled all the humiliation he had swallowed along the way, suppressed his anger, and called out to her in a low voice, "Willow." Only then did Willow pull her gaze away from me, replying a little unnaturally. Makoto gritted his teeth in secret. Stumbling forward, he reached out to grab Willow's hand, but just as he was about to touch her, he cried out in pain, "Ah, it hurts, 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 don't touch." He pulled his hand back, glaring at me with hatred, his meaning crystal clear. Willow saw the supposed injury on Makoto's hand and instantly frowned. She turned to me in fury and demanded, "What did Makoto ever do to you that you had to hurt his hand? David, you've gone too far. You know very well his hands are for playing the piano." I sneered. A courtroom needs defendants to confess, yet here she was, basically forcing me into guilt. Glancing at his hand, without even a scratch on it, I mocked, "Are you blind? If Makoto's injury doesn't see a doctor soon, it'll heal completely on its own." Our arguing attracted the attention of people at the banquet. Most of them were Willow's relatives, who had always mistreated the original male lead. I curled my lips in a mocking smile, just about to verbally tear the two of them apart, when Willow's second uncle and second aunt hurried over and interrupted. Second uncle said, "Oh, come on now, let it go, let it go. Life isn't easy for anyone. We're all family here. Fighting only damages harmony. David, just be generous, bow your head, apologize, and it'll all blow over." Second aunt added, "Exactly. This is supposed to be a pleasant family banquet. David, why must you stir up trouble?" Her first words were already placing all the blame on me. The others followed suit, chiming in one after another, pressing me to apologize. Someone said, "Are you asking for a beating? Pulling a stunt like this the moment you arrive? What a killjoy." Another sneered, "I'd say Willow was downright unlucky to marry you. Look at Makoto, so capable, so dependable." Yet another added, "Who even knows what kind of trick he used to deceive our Willow into marrying him?" The crowd was noisy, every voice accusing me, drenching me with slander. All the chaotic noise jammed into my head, making my ears ring. The fire in my chest was like gasoline poured onto flames, exploding and blazing through every inch of my body. Damn it, All of you, shut the hell up. The thread of reason snapped. I grabbed a glass of champagne from the table and splashed it all over Willow, then slapped her so hard she collapsed to the ground. I roared furiously. And you, worse than pigs and dogs, watch me slap you to death. I yanked Makoto up by the collar and slapped his vicious face until it instantly swelled. The others were stunned, convinced I'd gone insane. They stood frozen in place, not moving, until I began kicking the collapsed Willow with all my strength. Only then did they rush to restrain me, but whoever came, I slapped. One came, I slapped one. Two came, I slapped two. The scene dissolved into complete chaos, filled with women's shrieks and men's pained grunts. And at the center of it all, I, striking with both hands, was slapping away with unrestrained glee. The male lead inside my head screamed in horror at the scene. Every time I slapped someone, he shouted like a frantic commentator, reporting their identity. Ah, don't hit second aunt. Please don't hit third uncle. Don't hit second uncle either. But the more I slapped, the more I lost myself. My fury turned wild, until I completely merged with the rhythm of the blows. The contact between my palm and their faces played a beautiful symphony. I sank into the music, intoxicated, my mood miraculously soothed, leaving me light and carefree. I only stopped when my arms grew sore from slapping. By then, the entire hall was filled with their crying and pleas for mercy. I admired the scene, and only one word echoed in my heart: satisfying. Chapter 03. Some busybody uploaded the video of me slapping people onto the internet. After that battle, I became famous overnight. Netizens even gave me the nickname, Slap God of War. I was quite pleased, since it proved my strength was undeniable. It was satisfying, sure, but the consequence was that my arm swelled for an entire week from hitting too hard. Willow and Makoto seemed terrified of me after the beating, behaving unusually obedient these days. I couldn't be bothered to investigate further. It gave me peace and quiet anyway. During these days, I chatted with the male lead in my head and learned some details that weren't written in the original plot. Turns out, the male lead once had a prestigious family background, but after his parents died in a sudden car accident, everyone pushed him down while he was vulnerable. The Chan group collapsed and split apart. Everyone wanted a share of the spoils, only the female lead reached out to help him. She supported him in his lowest moment, which was why he remained hopelessly devoted to her. I, however, felt something was fishy, but didn't say it aloud. He then asked me, "What about you? How did you transmigrate into this novel?" The male lead scratched his head, curious. With fighting power as strong as mine, what kind of person had I been in my world? But I didn't want to recall the past. Those memories were like a venomous thorn lodged in my heart, each beat of my heart stabbing me with pain that lingered. Those experiences were the very root of what had driven me into madness. Seeing my pale face, the male lead understood. Everyone carried unspeakable secrets. I had mine, and so did he. He didn't ask further, just silently patted my shoulder. Just when things had been quiet for a long time, Makoto suddenly made a move. I was lying on the sofa leisurely playing video games when the doorbell rang. David. Long time no see. Makoto had actually dyed his hair back to normal, and, rare sight, was wearing a formal suit. After his fake cordial greeting, he arrogantly sat down on the sofa with his head raised high. I glanced at him indifferently and asked, "What's the matter? Did you strain your neck?" You. Makoto nearly lost his temper from anger, but then he suddenly remembered something, suppressed it, and curved his lips into a smug smile. With great pride, he pulled out a medical report, tossed it in front of me, and said in a mocking tone, "Willow is pregnant with my child, the so-called fruit of our friendship." He said, "You've been married to Willow for 4 years, and there's not a single sign of movement in her belly. What does that mean?" "It means you're not capable, David. It's me, not you." Before Makoto could finish, the male lead in my mind could no longer contain his suppressed emotions and directly seized control of the body. Makoto felt a sudden shift in the man's aura before him. Despair and oppression washed over him completely. The male lead's eyes turned red, his body trembling uncontrollably. He seemed unwilling to believe what was happening, muttering, "It's impossible, impossible. Willow said she would only have children for me." I was speechless. Upon hearing this, Makoto smiled smugly and taunted further, "David, you're so stupid. Women all like strong men. You're such a waste. Of course she can't stay faithful to you." This only provoked the male lead more. He suddenly stood up, seemingly losing his mind, repeating the same words over and over again. "You're talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense." He clumsily tried to grab the pregnancy test report from the table, but Makoto grabbed his hand. Makoto's eyes flickered, and he mockingly smiled at the male lead before suddenly shouting, "David, speak properly. Don't get physical." Then, he deliberately fell backward, whether due to not controlling the distance. He hit the back of his head with a thud on the armrest of the sofa. Makoto. Willow, who had somehow arrived, rushed over to help Makoto, who was now dazed on the floor. She turned, glaring at the male lead who was still frozen in place, and threatened angrily, "If anything happens to Makoto, I'll make sure you won't have a good death." The male lead ignored her threat, instead staring at her with a piercing gaze and slowly asked, "Why are you pregnant?" Under the male lead's direct and unwavering gaze, Willow, as if burned, turned her head away and answered coldly, "I have the right to bear children. It's my right to choose who I want to have children with." Hearing this, the male lead laughed bitterly. Exhausted and with no more words to say, he muttered under his breath, "Just get out." Willow, still supporting Makoto, walked away, leaving the male lead to collapse weakly on the sofa. Overwhelming despair crashed down on him like a tidal wave, pushing him deep under, slowly sinking, slowly dying. He couldn't understand why things had turned out this way. Willow had loved him so much in the past, enough to sever ties with her family and pull him out of his darkest moments. At that time, he had already decided Willow was the one, the person he would spend the rest of his life with. But since their marriage, everything changed. The passionate love they had was gradually diluted by time and the mundane struggles of life, eventually buried under the weight of money and material gains. He stared at the empty door, unable to understand why things had turned out like this. I saw all of this in the male lead's mind. The initial anger gradually transformed into confusion. I quietly asked him, "Is it worth it to love someone who no longer loves you?" The male lead slowly lowered his head, thinking deeply for a long while. I thought he wouldn't answer, but then I heard him quietly say, "It's really not worth it. The Willow I loved is already gone." With those words, the male lead slowly closed his eyes, as if utterly exhausted. Chapter 04. The next day, the male lead was forcibly taken to the hospital by Willow's bodyguards, where he saw Willow holding Makoto's arm as he lay in the hospital bed. When she saw the male lead being dragged in, she spoke slowly. "Makoto has been diagnosed with acute kidney failure. He can only be saved with a kidney transplant." The male lead understood, and mockingly replied, "So?" Willow tightened her grip on Makoto's hand and continued, "David, please donate a kidney to Makoto." She seemed to feel that was a bit too much, quickly adding, "Makoto won't forget you. Once the baby is born, he'll definitely acknowledge you as the godfather." Makoto also tried to persuade him, "Yeah, David, a child can't grow up without a father. Saving a life is worth more than building a 7-story pagoda." Willow then added, threatening him, "Don't forget, the Chan group still needs the Liu family's investment." The male lead clenched his fists, his body trembling with rage. He wanted to turn around and leave immediately, but he couldn't let the business his parents had worked so hard for collapse because of him. After a long pause, he finally exhaled slowly and said, "Fine, I agree." The two on the hospital bed sighed in relief. Willow was beaming with joy as she instructed the doctor to prepare for surgery. Everyone in the room was cheerful, except for him, who had fallen into an icy abyss. Lying on the bed, as the cold anesthetic was about to be injected into his body, the male lead suddenly felt very tired. He suddenly remembered me, who shared his body. He apologized quietly. "Sorry, brother, I've dragged you into this. Sigh, am I just pathetic?" He hated his weak and helpless self, but he was truly exhausted. As he thought about it, his consciousness began to fade. He never heard my final words. "David, don't take the blame for others. You've done enough." Seeing his miserable state made my heart heavy. I couldn't just let this go. I, George, had to make sure the person I protected was well taken care of. I quickly took control of the body. Just as the anesthetic was about to enter, I opened my eyes and coldly declared, "I do not agree to donate a kidney." I forcefully broke free from my restraints, tightly grabbing the syringe filled with anesthetic, and jabbed it into the bodyguard who was watching me. The operating room descended into chaos. Taking advantage of the confusion, I quickly got dressed, grabbed a scalpel, and stormed out. I staggered outside Makoto's hospital room and overheard them whispering. A strange female voice asked, "Do you really think this plan will work? If Willow finds out she can't get pregnant, and the order was swapped by me, we're all finished." Then Makoto's voice followed. "It's fine. I've arranged everything. I'll make sure she has an accident and falls unconscious. Then David, that idiot, will donate a kidney too." As soon as I heard this, I was furious. Damn it, not only is the pregnancy thing a lie, now they want both of my kidneys. Chapter 05. I held back the anger rising in my chest and continued to listen to the conversation inside. Makoto said, "Baby, just hang in there. Once this is done, both the Chan group and the Wang group will be ours. Then you can marry me in peace." His affectionate tone made me want to puke, but little did I know, their ambitions were far from small. Before I could eavesdrop further, Willow arrived, receiving the message. "David, are you crazy?" Her hysterical scream made the two in the room quickly separate, as if they'd been shocked. I rubbed my ears, which were still buzzing from the shock, and impatiently retorted, "What's going on? Didn't they tell you not to make noise in a hospital?" Willow gritted her teeth and irritably grabbed my sleeve, dragging me into the ward. When she saw Makoto, pale and lying in bed, her anger intensified. She practically wanted to dig my kidney out with her own hands. Makoto sobbed. "David, please, have mercy, save me." Makoto was a pitiful sight, snot and tears all over his face, begging me in the most humble manner. I remained unmoved. I had to admire his acting skills, so expertly timed. I calmly spoke one word. "Not saving." Willow, irritated by my indifference, felt her eyes redden. She coldly threatened. "David, I think you want the Chan group to go bankrupt." Hearing this threat, I sneered mockingly and asked, "Oh, do you want to manipulate the Chan group into bankruptcy a second time?" Willow froze, and a storm of thoughts rushed through her mind. Does David know the truth? As soon as I said this, the four people in the room had different expressions. The woman who had been flirting with Makoto earlier subtly raised an eyebrow at me, as if showing newfound interest. Willow was stunned, but quickly hid it behind a composed expression. She frowned and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" That was her attempt at denying the truth. It was obvious. Willow then noticed the woman in the corner and was about to ask her something. However, Makoto suddenly made a move, catching her off guard. Makoto flung off the covers, stumbling out of bed, and shockingly kneeled directly in front of me. "David, I know you hate me. You don't want Willow to have my child, and you don't want me, the biological father, to live. But I'm willing to let the child call you father, and never acknowledge me as the father. I only ask you to save my life, so I can silently watch the child grow up." Makoto was crying uncontrollably, as if his heart was breaking, almost on the verge of fainting. Willow crouched down, hugging him, and shouted at me, "David, you're watching him die. How can you be so heartless? Don't you want the child to have a father? David, you'd better donate a kidney to Makoto. Building your happiness on someone else's suffering. You're truly vicious." Willow, completely triggered, spilled all the words she had been holding back, while Makoto shot me a triumphant grin. I couldn't help but laugh in exasperation at their ridiculous act. Sighing, I said, "You two really are a match made in heaven, like a bitch and a dog." All right. Saving a life is worth more than building a 7-story pagoda. I don't want the child to grow up without a father. Upon hearing my words, their faces lit up with joy, but the next second, I added, "However, Willow, do you really think you're pregnant?" I dropped a bombshell. Makoto immediately panicked, loudly retorting, "David, stop spouting nonsense." I couldn't be bothered with him. I pulled out a medical report from my pocket and threw it in Willow's face. "This patient has been diagnosed with early ovarian failure and is unable to conceive." The words on the paper rang out like a slap to her face. Willow stood frozen in place. Chapter 06. I sneered a few times and said, "Open your dog's eyes wide and take a good look. Who's really the one with the problem here?" Actually, the male lead already knew about Willow's physical condition, but to avoid gossip, he took the blame for it, never telling her. But I wasn't worried. After all, exposing the truth would completely crush her. Damn cheating woman. Just seeing her annoys me. I rolled my eyes dramatically, the frustration in my heart bubbling over. With a swift kick, I shoved the cheating woman aside. I cursed. "Take your diagnosis and go over there to look at it." Without support, Makoto was about to collapse. I grabbed his neck with one hand and snarled, "And you, didn't you want to kneel for me? Well, kneel all you want." I pressed down hard on his shoulder, forcing him to kneel. His knees slammed painfully into the cold ceramic tiles, making him cry out in agony. He cursed, "Get the hell off, you bastard." Makoto's face twisted in pain, his complexion now truly pale. I laughed. "Daring to curse at me? Want to keep that tongue of yours?" I saw that Makoto had stopped pretending to be ill, and my grip tightened. His miserable cries and curses echoed through the room. Willow, who usually acted all sweet with Makoto, showed no reaction, her hands clutching the diagnosis in a daze. Watching this, I suddenly lost interest. I let go, dusted off my clothes, and walked out. The woman, who had been in the corner, watching me with minimal presence, flashed an almost imperceptible emotion in her eyes as she watched my retreating figure. I didn't want to face retaliation from Willow, so I decisively chose to return to the Chan group, although many of the core members had been dismissed after Lou's family invested. The shares left by the male lead's parents still accounted for the majority, and the real heir to the Chan group was still him. The management rights and control were undoubtedly his. So, taking over the company's affairs right now wasn't unreasonable. This statement left the shareholders who opposed me with nothing to say, and they could only begrudgingly step aside. Before I transmigrated, I was already a CEO, so managing the company wasn't difficult for me. With my understanding of the plot, I easily secured several multi-million-dollar deals. Those shareholders who had once doubted me now had satisfied looks on their faces. After the meeting, my father's old friend, Sam stopped me. David, come with me for a moment. I raised an eyebrow. Sensing that Sam had something to tell me, he said, I honestly didn't think you'd come back to the company, but it seems like you've grown a lot. There are some things you need to know, I replied. Please. Sam, what's going on? Sam handed me a file and said with a meaningful look, the car accident that killed your parents wasn't an accident. He motioned for me to take the file and reminded me not to speak too much, as there were ears everywhere. I had already suspected something was off about the death of the male lead's parents. The plot hadn't explained much about the incident, but it was definitely connected to Willow. After all, the first beneficiary after the Chan Group's downfall was my then-fiancée, Willow. When I first took control of the male lead's body, I had someone look into these matters. Given the timeline, the truth should be coming to light soon. Chapter 07. At the annual Business Elite Banquet in S City, I led the Chan Group back to its peak, and naturally, my name was on the guest list. During this time, my abilities and methods were on full display for the business world to see, and at the banquet, countless people wanted to approach me for a chat. I was now at the height of my success, but I heard that Willow was doing quite the opposite. As if summoned by her name, Willow approached me, but this time, Makoto was nowhere to be seen by her side. She asked, David, why did you leave me? You left without saying a word. Do you know how heartbroken I am? As she moved closer to me, attempting to link her arm with mine, I immediately elbowed her away. I scolded. Stay away from me. Just seeing you makes me sick. Willow, as if she hadn't heard me curse at her, pitifully said, David, don't treat me like this. I know you care about me. Otherwise, how could you go to such lengths to appear here? I've already forgiven you for what happened in the hospital. Let's make up. Okay. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Sometimes, I really wondered who the true lunatic was between us. I asked her bluntly. Make up? What about Makoto? What's going to happen to him? Willow, seemingly having anticipated my question, responded slowly. I believe Makoto had his reasons. He must have lied to me because he didn't want to hurt me. But the truth about me being infertile is definitely a lie. David, stop joking, she added. There's no baby issue anymore. What's left for you to care about? I'll distance myself from Makoto. We can just pretend like nothing ever happened. Okay. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back a laugh. She seemed to realize the absurdity of her own words, and immediately grew furious. She bit her lip and snapped. David, don't get too arrogant. I enjoyed watching her hysterical state, slowly sipping champagne, and then I completely tore apart her last shred of decency. I said, you came to find me because the Liu family's project fell through, and Mr. Liu is really unhappy with you, right? My sharp gaze made her flinch, unable to hide her discomfort. Over the past few days, my informants had told me that Liu's family had suddenly revealed an illegitimate daughter who was deeply favored by the old man. She was constantly badmouthing Willow. That's why she was so desperate to reconcile with me, to use the Chan Group to solidify her position within the Liu family. Unfortunately, her plans were about to fall apart. With the truth exposed, Willow almost lost her composure. She glared at me, her voice cold with menace as she said, you'll regret this. We parted ways bitterly. When I got home and opened my computer, I found the private detective had sent me the documents about the car accident involving David's parents. As I expected, it was all orchestrated by Willow behind the scenes. In her bid to control the Chan Group, she didn't hesitate to hire assassins to kill. I took a deep breath, feeling the male lead's anger welling up deep within me. I gently patted my chest to calm myself. Don't worry, I will definitely make them pay. Chapter 08. Hello, Mr. Chan. A woman arrived uninvited. I didn't even look up and said, you finally arrived. The gossip-loving illegitimate daughter. She stepped closer and teased. Why so harsh? Don't look at people with colored glasses. I couldn't be bothered to play games with Alicia, I directly said. Cut the crap. Since you're here to cooperate with me, you should at least show some sincerity. She tilted her head and replied. That's not right, Mr. Chan. We're comrades on the same front. You rid yourself of Willow. I rid myself of the illegitimate daughter status. As for sincerity, after it's all over, Makoto, that trash, will be at your disposal. What do you think? Dealing with someone like her was exhausting. I pretended to despise the dog couple and angrily nodded in agreement. With the support of the Chan Group, Alicia's position grew even stronger. Mr. Liu became more fond of her and gave her more responsibility, while Willow was already forgotten. Having lost her most cherished interests to the illegitimate daughter, I couldn't believe Willow would just fade away. Sure enough, she couldn't take it anymore. She set up a murder case, trying to kill Alicia the same way she had killed the male lead's parents. But Alicia wasn't an idiot. Upon realizing that the brakes had been tampered with, she immediately abandoned the car to save herself. Though she broke a leg, at least her life was spared. Once she recovered, she quickly searched for clues without needing to investigate. She knew Willow, desperate and cornered, had done something stupid again. So, When Willow was in the middle of being intimate with Makoto, the police barged in and arrested her. When Mr. Liu found out about this, he immediately announced that he was severing ties with Willow. With nowhere else to turn, Willow suddenly remembered me, her husband. She barged into my house, crying and begging. David, my husband, I know you won't abandon me, right? I know you still love me. Please, save me. I leisurely watched Willow cry like a drowned rat, begging for mercy. I chuckled. Don't stop. Keep begging. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll help you. Willow's eyes flashed with joy, and she crawled toward me, excitedly grabbing my hand. Her face filled with love. She said, David, the one I've always loved is you. After this is all over, let's go for IVF. Okay, we'll live a happy life as a family of 3. I know I've made many mistakes and hurt you, but we've been married, and the bond we have is strong. Please, forgive me. I looked at Willow with scorn, pulled my hand away, and then slapped her tear-streaked face as a form of humiliation. I whispered, when you orchestrated the death of my parents, did you ever think I'd forgive you? Upon hearing this, Willow froze in place. We both understood the meaning behind my words. She collapsed in despair, her hand brushing against a glass, producing a sharp sound. I stared at her regretful, despairing face and suddenly started laughing. I pulled out a document and said, I can help you solve your problem, on the condition that you sign this divorce agreement. Willow immediately lifted her head, as if seeing a lifeline. Her eyes red. She nodded frantically and signed without hesitation. I leaned back on the sofa and said irritably, once you've signed, just get out. As agreed, I had her released from prison, though Alicia was upset with me for doing so. As for why I helped her, it was because her punishment hadn't been enough. When it comes to murder, the heart must be punished as well. Chapter 09. David, why are you helping him? Didn't you hate Willow the most? Alicia asked, furious. Since I transmigrated into this novel, I hadn't taken any mental soothing medication, and recently, my mind had started to hurt again. Hearing her question me like that, I furrowed my brows and slapped her across the face. I angrily said, don't think that just because you joined the Liu family, you can rise to the top. If I want, I can drag you down at any time. The slap woke Alicia up. She pursed her lips, then, with seductive eyes, sat on my lap, leaning close to my ear. In a sultry voice, she whispered, can't forget Willow. How about looking at me instead? I can do a lot more. I'm sure I'll make Mr. Chan satisfied. I took a deep breath, holding back the nausea I felt, then yanked her long hair and threw her to the ground. Ah! Alicia screamed, her face flushed with pain as she gasped for air. I patted the dust off my pants and warned her, stay in line. Don't keep parading around in front of me, or I'll make it hurt much more. She shot me a resentful look before unwillingly retreating. If Willow wasn't a bad person, Alicia was no better. I didn't touch her, simply because she still had some value to me. Since Willow was saved by me, she had firmly believed that I still had feelings for her. After all, why would I help her if I knew the truth about my parents' deaths? So she borrowed a large sum of money, intending to make a name for herself in front of Mr. Liu. As expected, no one in the industry wanted to help her. To secure investment, Willow even started using her charm, accompanying men to drink every day. But most of those men I had already made arrangements with. Not only did they refuse to invest in her, but they also humiliated her in every way. In just a few months, she was millions of dollars in debt, and to top it off, she was caught in bed with someone else's wife and had one of her hands chopped off. Now, she was left with only one goal, to pay off the debt. If she couldn't, she might lose her other hand as well. Under my instructions, Willow discovered that Makoto had secretly stashed away a large sum of money. That night, after drinking too much, she came home with a knife, threatening Makoto to hand over the money. Makoto, planning to run away, was caught by Willow. Willow screamed, you piece of trash, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have divorced David. Makoto, angered by her threat, cursed back. Me, Willow, are you insane? Not only did you kill David's parents for profit, you cheated on him, betrayed him. You selfish, greedy woman, no wonder someone cut off your hand. Willow, enraged by Makoto's words, nearly attacked him, but Makoto wasn't easy to deal with. During the struggle, he grabbed a beer bottle and smashed it into her, leaving her paralyzed. Panicking, Makoto ran to Alicia's place that very night, as the whole thing had been planned between the two of them. When I heard the report from my subordinates, I couldn't help but enjoy the spectacle of them tearing each other apart. As for why I didn't finish Willow Liu off myself, it was simply because I didn't want the male lead involved. I had someone send Willow to the debt collectors. I'm sure they'll take good care of Liu's precious daughter. Chapter 10. With the cheating woman dealt with, only the scumbag remained. Makoto thought Alicia truly loved him, and with an air of superiority, he ordered the servants around, acting like he was the master of the place, to deal with him. I specifically went to Alicia's place. The butler respectfully welcomed me in, but when Makoto saw me, he reacted like an enraged mad dog, shouting loudly, "Who let him in? Get this person out of here." I ignored him and directly said to Alicia, "Ali, I'm here to discuss the new project with you." I deliberately made it sound intimate to annoy Makoto. Alicia replied, "I'm so happy you're here." She even threw me a flirtatious wink. Makoto, seeing our exchange, was nearly driven mad. He angrily ordered Alicia to get rid of me. Alicia, already fed up with him, slapped him hard across the face and rolled her eyes, saying, "If you want to stay here, you'd better behave." Makoto, in disbelief, shouted, "Alicia, how can you do this to me?" I couldn't help but laugh on the side. His anger was directed at me, and in his frenzy, he cursed, "You bastard, I'll kill you." As he charged toward me, I kicked him to the ground. I casually threw the scalding hot water from a glass onto his face, instantly causing large blisters to form. He screamed, "Ah, it's so hot, ah." Makoto now looked like a crazed, long-haired dog, still trying to kick me out. Alicia, annoyed, said, "Are you insane? Someone, lock him in the basement. Don't let him out without my permission." Makoto, with his swollen face, was pitifully dragged away, still cursing me as they took him, but I didn't care. After all, I was the one enjoying myself. After dealing with the mess, Alicia cautiously asked, "Mr. Chan, what new project were you referring to?" I casually replied, "Oh, nothing much. Just that you've been removed from the next project." I shrugged and nonchalantly delivered the blow that would surely break her. From the start, Alicia's intentions were never pure. How could I help her solidify her position in the Liu family? And besides, her last bit of usefulness had been exhausted, so now it was time for me to rid myself of her. I didn't care about Alicia's reaction. I turned, waved, and left with a carefree stride. Faintly, I could hear her desperate screams and the pitiful cries of the men from the villa. Chapter 11. I had everything prepared, and suddenly I felt a sense of relaxation. I drove to the beach, gazing at the vast ocean. The salty sea breeze rushed to meet me. I suddenly said, "Come out. I know you've been awake for a while now." The only response I got was the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I looked down, smirking slightly, and continued, "I'm leaving." As soon as the words left my mouth, a male voice immediately responded. He asked, "Why leave? Isn't it nice here?" The male lead, confused, spoke up. He had woken up when I returned to the Chan Group's board of directors, but he didn't want to show himself. He lacked the courage to face everything and hid inside, like a coward. I didn't answer him directly, instead teasing. "Oh." The turtle with its head pulled back finally decided to show up. Hearing my words, the male lead sighed and said, "Thank you for everything you've done. I'm just a coward. When I was bullied in school, I didn't have the courage to fight back. When my parents were harmed, I didn't have the power to avenge them." I closed my eyes and lightly replied, "It's okay. Courage can be developed as long as you, brother, can stand up again. That's enough. Besides, wasn't it your stage when we discussed the divorce?" The male lead was startled. The day we discussed the divorce, I hadn't been in control of the body due to not feeling well, so everything that happened was because of him. I comforted him. All right. I really have to go now. I'm going back to my world to face the things I've been running from in my heart." My soul floated out of the male lead's body, standing in front of him. At that moment, the male lead finally saw my true appearance, a man with the classic protagonist looks. It all made sense now. No wonder he was so skilled at swinging his arm to slap people. I really was leaving, and suddenly, the male lead gave me a hug. He said, "You did this a long time ago. Good luck." His warm voice gradually faded in my ears as I returned to my own world.